So here you can see that I've accessed our EHR application and I do have a patient's chart open. I've also completed some previous encounter information for the patient, so we'll have some recommended search criteria. So to access patient education, I can still go to the File menu and go down to Patient Education here, and it'll launch the browser for me. So most of this should still look fairly familiar. For example, you can type in the search criteria up above. So if this patient has diabetes, I could still just simply type diabetes and click search here, and then my search results will display. But one of the new options again is that recommended search criteria. So based on information that I've documented in the encounter, I will see things in kind of like a category view. So I have the ICD list, the problem list, procedures that might have been done, allergies, medications, and then labs if they happen to be different from the procedures as well. You'll see that in the list. So I can click on any one of these. So I did a search for diabetes up here, remember, but I could also get to diabetes, for example, from the problem list. And in that case, it's going to search and give me the same type of search results. Only this time I didn't have to actually type anything in. Now, in this case, because it was kind of something general like diabetes, it did give me quite a few options. So that's also where you can see your search results up here, and I can scroll through and I can find more specifically, like maybe we want something on their foot health, specifically because this patient did also have a problem with a foot ulcer. So I can certainly select. Now that's just what the recommended search criteria will give you. I can also use my documents list down here. So for example, there's diabetes listed, and I can look more towards the age of the patient, which I can actually see up here at the top. It was using that in my search criteria before, so I could manually select to see here, and this is a female patient, and I can look at all of my health-wise topics. So I have a lot of different ways of searching. Now technically at this point all of these options were internal, and the way that I know that it was using the health-wise options is in this search box here. So I can see internal, and then term, and then English, the age, and the gender. Those were all the search criteria used to find the list of information that I wanted. So when I clicked on the problem list diabetes, it preloaded all of that information and then gave me my search results here. And I can change the way the internal search is done. So this one did terms and title. I could have done CPT or ICD. I could go to external, and I could also search here. So if maybe I'm not finding what I need through the HealthWise documentation, the URL that I have listed under my external resources might be able to provide something else, and I have all these options here. I can also change my age range if I wanted to, and I can also change the gender option. So just in case, again, some of it is limiting what we have found in the search results, you can always change it. And then you can also toggle the different languages that go along with the HealthWise terms as well. So all of that can be changed up above, but everything in the recommended search criteria has kind of a default to go with it. So also remember that you can scroll down and you can look through like the medications, for example. This is not really internal, external. This is the monograph that we have supplied typically through the medication module. So you can get to it from here as well so that you have an easier option of printing or getting this information to the patient along with all the other education resources. So I highly recommend using this recommended search criteria, but it does require that you've already documented a lot of encounter information first, so it would come towards the end of the visit. And then if not, you can still free text your search criteria at the top, or you can use your internal HealthWise folder list to view by topic. From there, also remember you can resize. So our recommended search criteria was a little bit longer, so I can resize things as needed. For my search results, this one was kind of a long list again, so I can change those options, and my preview pane becomes a little bit smaller. So it's all dependent on what the user is trying to look at. And then from there, we can select multiple options. So we did want the one about foot health. Maybe I want them to have information about tests. and we want to have just a whole bunch of other things, learning about type 2. So I'm just selecting each one with a check mark, and they're all automatically adding to the selected documents section. So it's kind of like they're queued up for use later. So I don't necessarily have to make a decision right now. I don't have to print them or send them to the portal just yet. I'm just kind of getting them ready. And that's especially important because I may move on to a different topic. I may want to add in something about a different diagnosis or a procedure that was done or that will be done. So it's just kind of like a shopping cart, like I said, and it's just kind of queuing them up so that you can get to them as needed. You can also close the window even without doing anything with the selected documents. So if I close the browser, it'll say you have unprocessed documents in the cart. Would you like to keep them in there? And unprocessed just means I haven't saved them to the encounter or printed them or sent them to the portal. Nothing's really been done yet. So I'm going to keep them in the cart. So I can always go back and forth in between and just kind of keep things as needed, which is also handy because you may decide on different topics for education at different points within the encounter, and then you might have an additional staff member through the checkout process do the actual printing or sending. So now let's go ahead and take a look at some KBM changes that are related to patient education. The first thing you'll notice is that the patient education button has been added at different places throughout the KBM. So you'll of course see the button that launches the patient education browser. This is commonly found on places like the checkout template or My Plan or even the new My Custom Plan. So look out for that. We also added it to the left navigation. So that means you can now get to the patient education browser pretty much from any template as long as it has that left navigation. So that's almost anything, really. So that makes it nice and easy. And you'll also notice a new indicator on the patient education button. You'll get this little red exclamation mark, and that means that there's items left in the cart that haven't been processed. So for example, if you have a provider that's gathering up a whole bunch of documents and the clinical staff member gets to the checkout template, they will see the patient education button look like this, and that will be their indicator to know that they still actually need to print or send or just save the information to the encounter. So it's just a handy indicator, and that will show up anywhere the button is. Left navigation, checkout, My Plan, any of them. Also on the checkout template, you'll notice a new panel for patient education, and it'll actually show you the documents that need to be processed. It's kind of like just the selected documents list that came from the browser. So if the end user noticed that red indicator on a button, instead of necessarily going to the browser, they could also just come to checkout, which is a likely place they would be processing these items from. So I would recommend doing it all from checkout for the clinical staff so that the patient has it at the time that they're leaving their visit. And it's basically got the same options as the browser. You see everything queued up to be processed, and you can print, save to the encounter, and send it to the patient portal. You'll also notice a browser button, so if you want to go back to the main browser, you can from here. That's another nice way to launch it. And you can remove items from the cart also, but you can only add items to the cart from the browser directly. So let's go ahead and take a look at this in the application. So once again, we're back in the EHR. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the intake template. And one of the ways that we can get to the education browser is by going to the left navigation. So if you scroll down, you'll notice that you have that patient education button. Here you can see the red alert indicator, which tells us that we have some documents pending that have already been searched for previously, which we knew we did in our earlier example. I can also navigate over to checkout. And this is another place that you can access education. In this case, with the education button, it is accessed by clicking on patient education as a topic first, and then you'll see the patient education button here, and you'll also see that alert indicator. And remember that if there are pending items, you can also go to that patient education panel, which is down towards the bottom of the template. So you can see it's already expanded, and we have the 3 documents that we had left in the browser previously. So from here, the user can print or save to the encounter or send to patient portal. So everything can be applied directly from the checkout template. And then again, if they need to get back to the browser, they can click that button and be right back where they were. So this would allow them to perform an additional search. So we've updated the KBM just to make sure that everything that's being done with the browser functionality works along with what we have within the templates to make it easier for the user to access.